which of you is not pulling her weight, I will sack you. I want more shonky chats. I want more money. Power.
Not the hairdryer treatment. I haven't got enough hair.
One of you will be off the channel tonight. One of you.
Hell's cheek, not even my wife is this scary.
Yeah, who's for the chop? I tell you what, I mean business tonight. Too many hoopets. I have to feed them all. Ridiculous. One's for the chop. So, they're not working hard enough. Brisbane Sweatshop, Logopolis had at least 2 people working on the switchboard. Anyway, welcome to the final instalment of the Sensphere trilogy of shows in a day. Yeah, in a day, 20 hours. All for your entertainment and information. Of course, this is the full, frothing, frank, and hopefully fun panel taking no prisoners with their results and their scores in the Tombstone Totaliser. And there may be a tombstone required for this series if headlines indicate anything. Every panellist has autonomy and independence to say what the hell they want, but we prefer to keep it respectful. Debate needs ears as well as a mouth. And Thread, please appreciate that's what we intend to do on this channel. We like diversity of views. So we aim to make it a show that talks sense, makes sense about all the nonsense out there. Yeah. So welcome to our discussion on Wishworld. Obviously, instead of having a life, I did a midday show on the ratings. We saw them 1.83 million. That's 740,000 down in 1 week. Oh, way, hallelujah. That's so good, isn't it? That still means that since Space Babies, they've lost 30% of their audience share. Hello. On top of that, I mean, if you really are finding that's really alarming news, I mean, what do the BBC have now? There's a 24/7 TARDIS relaxing ambience you can have. You can listen to the TARDIS all day and night if you so wish. No, don't fancy that? Okay, then try this then. Do you need just good news? Go on the radio, Radio Wales, Doctor Who, Time and Space for Everyone. Oh, I can see a flag there. I wonder what that's got to do with. Did you listen to it, everybody? I did. I was going to do a show about it. I'm not too sure if it said anything. But basically, it was by Dr. Emily Garside, who has actually written a book called Gay Aliens and Queer Folk, How Russell T Davies Changed TV. And then she does a programme called Doctor Who, Time and Space for Everyone. And of course, Russell Davies loved it because it was about him. This is excellent. A documentary about Doctor Who's impact on the LGBTQIA+ community in Wales and across the world. It's wise, it's fun, it's insightful, and it's full of pride. A lovely addition to the 20-year celebrations. Well, if that takes your fancy, it's there. Not too sure if it's telling me anything, but there you go. So, well, hello, everybody. Can you see me? Please tell me if you can see me, because we've had some interesting internet fun, as you do. So if somebody can just tell me if you can see me or not, or whether I'm just talking to myself, that would be appreciated, because otherwise I'm just like a teacher in a classroom full of people. And he's back, says Michelle. So, okay, here we go. Sorry about that. I did tell you I live in the village of the damned. So there you go. Right, I was talking about cheering you up. I bet you're all celebrating, going, God, Brendan at last has kind of chilled out. Right, do you get the wheel in space, or do you get spectral scream and fear death by water? Or do you get the Doctor Who magazine in the middle? We did get a lot of interesting news this week, though, didn't we? BBC had Sophie Ellis-Bextor on Eurovision standby as their feared Doctor Who star would pull out over Israel. Yes, we've heard all about that, haven't we? And of course, that created a whole load more news, which we discussed, and I'm going to save it till the panel's on. Paul Clifton here reported this. A data leak reveals Doctor Who on Disney Plus suffered a catastrophic 50% drop in streaming minutes throughout Series 14. The data is expected to cause shockwaves for the BBC and force questions at the highest level about RTD's involvement and the handling of the 100 million budget. Fascinating. Let's talk a little bit more. And of course, the press are having a field day about Doctor Who. Wherever you look, TARDIS, non-binary aliens, imperialism plots, drag queens and Eurovision withdrawal, now BBC Tell Woke Doctor Who. I mean, there's just so much going on, and it's that bad news vibe that I feel as though we're getting. But does this cheer you up? There's now a Ncuti doll. There you go. The 15th Doctor in all... Well, which costume do you want? There you go. So there he is. And Ncuti looking really pleased with seeing himself. That's a sign of narcissism, mate. I can't believe this. I actually really had to check. 51 quid. Barbie, the 15th Doctor Barbie doll. He can't be. Surely not. I mean, really, honestly, I'm not I'm not too convinced by that one. And that's more convincing. Michelle sent me that one. He's more like Tiny Tears, isn't he? And then, of course, this sexualization of Doctor Who. I don't know. It's everywhere. You wouldn't get Tom Baker doing this. Did you see that? After a long day doctoring, this is my G-spot. And you think, oh, for God's sake, can we please move on? Can we please move on? And when you try and move on and cheer yourself up, even on blankety blank, there he was talking to Shirley. We were in Doctor Who. You really followed me in, didn't you, really? I did. It was because of you that I got into it. Really? Was it? No. You know, I mean, honestly, this is, it's the great fun of Doctor Who nowadays. But we are here having the Village of the Damned cut me off. Obviously, I was reporting the wrong news to everybody. So, of course, we're going to talk about Wishworld and hallelujah, Omega's back. You've all been wanting Omega back. So, of course, isn't that pleasing to know that he's back just for us? So, you know, Who Night last night actually went without a power cut. And there it was. And, of course, today, now, without any more troubles, we would like to get on with our show. So hopefully everybody's ready. Wondering where Brendan's been. I'll have a chill out after this, I have to say. So, let's take a breath. Let's get the panel on. Let's get them sorted out. Here's John.
What about Doctor Who?
Oh my God. So, well, actually, that normally gives me a heart attack, but this week, I think the power cut gave me a heart attack. That's all right. How many times, right, honestly, how many times do I have to put up with this nonsense in this village? I tell you what.
That's what I say every time I come on this show. How many times have I got to put up with this nonsense?
Maybe somebody was censoring me. That's what was going on there.
You don't think he watches this?
Yes. Hello, RTD. Good to see you.
Oh, he definitely watches.
He's got his celebrity. He's got his DEI pliers out.
Oh,
Gotcha.
oh, that sounds a bit dodgy. So,
you know, no, it's not narcissistic. You know, he's not happy with the fans who are against this, because this whole season has been a reaction to the fans who didn't like it last year.
Yeah, Wayne Parsons is saying your music, your inserts, and your guests are really loud, or your volume's down, Brendan. Wayne, I suggest you play with your volume, because I've been playing with mine. I'm told I'm too quiet, so I can't win on this one. Right, okay. So the first item first is normally burning issues, but we're getting close to the end of the season. So I want
Thank God.
your opinion on this, folks. So here we go.
Mayday, mayday, emergency, emergency.
Okay, how can I help? Well, Paul's disappeared for a second. It's fun, this, isn't it? Everything's going kaput. So the RTD Rescue Roadmap is now we've had 7 episodes out of 8. We've had Christmas specials, the lot. Is this pleasing what you're seeing? Are you seeing a master plan from RTD in play? Yeah, I mean, that's in essence what I'm saying here, because we've got everybody back all at once, you know, from Sutek to Toymaker to everybody. I mean,
Too
John,
much.
are you seeing a great scheme, a great Andrew Cartmel plan?
Who are you asking?
John, I said your name at the beginning.
Oh, did you forgive me? Forgive me. I never pay much attention to what you say. So. In the secret way. Am I seeing a great? No, I'm seeing signs of desperation. In terms of burning issues, one of the ones I had for this week was this is a man who's plundering Doctor Who's rich past, and at the same point wanting to take credit for inventing these fabulous characters and fabulous history the Doctor Who has, while at the same point he's traducing them, he's trashing them. So the conundrum I have with this era is this. Right at the start, they refer to this iteration of New Who as season 1, which basically is, if you like, the second reboot, restart since classic Who. We were told when he cast a new Doctor that if we didn't like it, go out, touch grass, smell the fresh air, drink the coffee, the Kool-Aid, whatever it is. He didn't want us. And then subsequent to that, he is plundering so deep into Doctor Who's lore and Time Lord lore and all this sort of stuff that he obviously knows he's appealing to his core audience by now. And I just don't get how the dichotomy here. He wants to attract a whole new audience, a whole new Gen Z audience. Fine. That's what you want to do, friend. You go and do it. But you don't do it at the same point you're doing all this other stuff. And at the same time, traduce it, trash it by filling it full of the agenda, if you like. So did he have a plan? Was it a rescue plan? I have no idea. I have no idea what goes on in the man's mind anymore. I just know that he's a man who's in total charge, who people will not tell him when he's wrong, when he's gone too far. And this shows absolutely, whether it's in entertainment or in politics, when you get someone in complete control, it spells disaster.
It does. I mean, and by the way, before I lose it, Paul Thomas Ashworth, very, very, very grateful for that. Thank you very much. I like this episode overall, and that's allowed, Paul. However, Shirley irritated me, and oh no, not Rogue again. Poor representation of disabled people, good effects. The 2 shows I've done in the last 20 hours, a lot of people who say they've got minor disabilities, etc., have been saying stuff like that. So, Paul, you're not alone. But thank you very much, very generous. Another Paul there. Paul, are you seeing a master plan here? The great RTD rescue roadmap after the bad Chibnall years?
So is it me? Sorry. Are you asking me, Brendan?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. No, it's just poor taste from Russell T Davies again. It's him not understanding. It's him feeling the need to emphasize certain things which don't need to be brought to the fore. It's been the same story since that Davros debacle, prior to even one of the specials being aired. I think the writing was on the wall then, and it's heavily written ever since that way.
Now, just on this, before we do get to the burning issues, I wanted to just show, I mean, Michelle, have you been intrigued by all this nonsense this week about has the shooty star been sacked or not?
No, because we've heard this for over a year now, and it wouldn't be surprising if that we are getting a change either in actor or in producer. I see this as a man with an unchecked ego, with no one stopping him, who thinks that he is better than any of the previous writers or producers of a 62-year-old franchise. He thinks that he is the best thing that's come since, sliced bread. I see this as a man whose ego is unchecked, and it makes me wonder, in the first run of RTD, who was standing there as the gatekeeper that was making him produce good stuff. How much of this was
It
co-written?
always sounded.
Because it's a level of
It
quality.
always sounded like it was Julie Gardner when I read the articles and all the rest of it at the time. Now, Rachel, you see all this stuff. Obviously, for some reason, the BBC didn't deny anything. They don't confirm anything. In other words, they poison this, because when Millie Gibson left or didn't leave in season 1, we all said, come on, you're throwing her under the bus. Now she's a little bit. But Shooty, I mean, and I'm asking you because of the acting background, but Shooty, his agent must be going off his head.
His agent must be
Going off his head.
Yeah, I would have thought so at this point, and this is why it's a bow down and get out as fast as you can. I should imagine that he was probably advised to leave the job after discussions with his agent, and this would have all come prior to Eurovision. Eurovision has nothing to do with it. So I don't think he's been fired. I think it was just mutual parting of the ways. And BBC won't necessarily deny it at this stage, and they won't admit it. But I don't like the leaving them to the pack of wolves aspect. I don't like that. That's where it's unfair game. And really, you should come in and say, hey, no, nip it in the bud. We're not talking about this. This is not true. We can deny it, whatever. But yeah, I just, you know what I mean, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And as I come back to John Farsight, thank you very much. Even Red Adair, remember him in the 70s, couldn't put these fires out on the oil rigs. It seems to be there's bad news every day, John.
Yeah, it's just interesting listening to what other people are saying. One thing we can tie this directly back to is the first Russell Davies era, when he did have some constraints on him, but there were times when those constraints didn't work. For example, as we've subsequently discovered, the whole Eccleston leaving thing was botched, not to Christopher Eccleston's, way of liking. I mean, the fact that they lost him in the first place because they didn't like some of the working practices. But even once he decided to leave, how that was handled didn't please Eccleston. And then Freema Agyeman in season 3 was thrown to the wolves again. There was all sorts of rumours that she wasn't giving her best performance and therefore was being axed at the end of season 3, which was allowed to gain traction and grow as a story, despite the fact that wasn't true. She was always going to be a one season companion, and then play roles later on either in Torchwood or in Doctor Who. So there is consistency here in the way this man allows some members of his cast to be, if you like, not well looked after, not like their agents may well prefer. And at the same point, we can hark back to Eccleston's time and the reason why he left after one season, seeing some of the working practices, which he's yet to fully speak of, but that's yet to come. So there are links there with Russell Davies. One, it's just perhaps this time round, those guardrails aren't there, and we've ended up with a lot quicker.
Rachel, just before we come in, there's a lot going on here, everybody. We are trying to sort out the audio and various things. This village is causing me grief tonight. Jamie's just been behind sorting out the audio. So if everybody just keeps an eye out. Anyway, Rachel, what were you going to say?
Yeah, it's like throwing them to the pack of the wolves. That's what I was saying earlier. I've just got to get my thread back. I can't remember what I was going to say.
Just to help you out here, well, the point I was making, he's got form on this.
Yes.
Look back at his
and the thing is, it's not necessarily the actor's fault, is it? No. But it's easier, as we know, to blame the face of the show rather than selling yourself out. And that is a big problem. It's a commentary. They've done it since the colony.
Yeah, I'm fascinated. I mean, I said it on when we wondered whether Ncuti had been axed, thinking if RTD put his career on the line saying, I want Ncuti as the actor, not somebody else, and they had to pay somebody else out, then Ncuti shoots his mouth off saying, go and touch grass if you don't like my version of Doctor Who, and white mediocrity and blah, blah, blah. You can imagine RTD has to defend him, but must be thinking, oh, for God's sake, mate. And then if he didn't do the Eurovision, and the whole night was set up for Doctor Who, really, wasn't it? In RTD's head,
Still their fault. I don't blame Gatwa. He's got a career to look after, but nonetheless, he agreed to take part in a song contest at which Israel was participating. So if he didn't want to be part of it, he didn't have to be. I don't believe he was dragooned into this, nor would he allow himself to be. I am sure, but nonetheless, I still blame the BBC for this. And Russell Davies. If they're not happy with what their guests are saying, they're the one who appointed him, or he's the one who appointed him. So careful what you sow, because you reap the rewards. Or the Rani reaps the world.
Obviously, we're just kind of addressing a few things. Now, let's go straight to the cliffhanger, because we had a cliffhanger, then a trailer, then we'll start to get right into the burning issues. So, at the end of last night's episode, Wishworld, we saw him hanging onto a balcony. But the balcony was hanging onto nothing else. So it's like, ooh, you had that. Obviously, London looks beautiful. It has a very nice pink vibe going on. It seems that every year, poor London gets decimated. I blame Sadiq Khan. And then we have Mel with all the crumbling houses. So that was the end of last night's episode. Are you excited, folks?
Yay.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
Not again that we've seen before at all.
Well, yeah, it has, like Stolen Earth had about 3 cliffhangers in one. I mean, Paul, when you looked at this, is this on form for you? I've been wanting an episodic cliffhanger for ages.
I watched The Seeds of Doom the other day, and it wasn't for the purposes of affecting a contrast with what we got on Saturday. But as it happened, there was a story that didn't get itself tied up with baggage. It didn't have any loose ends to tie up. It just introduced a fantastic, fascinating new monster, a mesmerizing villain who aspired to be a monster. And it gave us 6 pristine episodes. And not once during that did I realize that it was the end of the series, because back then, as I'm sure those of us of a certain age remember, sometimes you wouldn't be aware that it was the final story. Sometimes the announcer would say at the end of the program, there'll be no Doctor Who until September or some such. So you just watched it for the story, and it just so happened that it was the final story. And that's what The Seeds of Doom was. And that's what Davies should have been doing. He should have really been doing, much as I like a lot of what he used to do back in 2005 onwards. He should have been concentrating on just telling stories and not worrying about an arc, and not worrying about a culmination and an expectancy associated with it. He should have just told good stories, and one of those good stories would have coincided with the end of the season. And that's exactly what he should have done here. I absolutely loved the opening sequence with the Rani, with that Grimm's fairy tale. It was wonderful. And this is called Wishworld. My most fervent wish was that the whole thing could just be, admittedly, a derivative version of Mark of the Rani, but set like that. Perhaps she'd be using the babies to interfere with evolution or something like that, and she could just be the Rani. Because what we got was a race-swapped, sex-swapped version of John Sims' Master. After that opening scene, she was riding around and she was lording it over everybody, and she wasn't really the Rani that she promised. And it wasn't Punjabi's fault. It was Davies. Davies defaults to this one-size-fits-all renegade. He doesn't understand that they come in different aspects and that they're contrasted with each other as much as they are with the Doctor. He doesn't get that.
Well, Michelle, on the cliffhangers, we've got Ncuti falling to his death again. I don't feel any jeopardy. I mean, they're trying their best with CGI, but I personally thought it didn't work. But how did you feel when you saw the cliffhanger? Did it grab you? I mean, is this going to get people back?
No, I mean, it's the classic cliffhanger. The Doctor's going to get out of it because it's Doctor Who. But the thing is, where I am so broken after last year's season finale that failed to deliver from part 1 to part 2. It's like, how am I supposed to get excited for something that I know is not going to deliver?
Yeah. I mean, so there's the cliffhanger. I'm so excited. Did you see the trailer, everybody?
No, I purposely didn't watch it.
Oh, Rachel, I'm gonna show bits of it now. Is that all right?
Okay. Oh, I will close my eyes. No, it's all right. It's fine.
Sorry, folks. If you don't want, I mean, the thing is, he puts it on the blooming internet. He puts it everywhere. So
Yeah, and that's my problem. There's just too many trailers this year.
I'm bored rigid with them all. But
Can I
anyway,
just
I'll
ask?
go big.
Sorry,
Go on, go for it.
sorry, I was just going to say, can I just ask, is the final episode on iPlayer in the morning at 8:00 again, or is it deferred
No.
because of the cinematic
No,
showing?
Deferred.
Yeah,
They're doing it at the correct time.
Yes,
Okay,
which shows
thank
you
you.
that they could have done it all the time.
I know.
So there he is. He's fallen to his death. People are praying. There you go. And then you've got, I mean, I had Star Wars vibes here of on the Huth planet, and you've Empire Strikes Back, and I've got a brilliant toy a tat, and you can see there's the good old unit tower being attacked by these dinosaurs, and then you get a bit of dialogue. There's the Omega's coming, and he's coming out of that clock face type thing. Oh, for God's sake. Then Ibrahim at last is back to unit and fire. And then you've got, with his body, says the Rani, I can construct a new Gallifrey. Really?
No.
Yeah, I swear I will stop you, says the doctor. And there's the dinosaur getting attacked by good old unit at last. And then we get this domestic bit. My battle is in there, says Belinda, saving my daughter. And then, you know, you see a long shot of it. So there you go. It's very exciting stuff, isn't it? Oh my God, you know. So
If she brings back Gallifrey
again.
Well, Gallifrey never should have been lost after the 50th anniversary.
Oh.
Because that was the whole point of, and then the Chibnall comes back and destroys it again. At this point, it makes no sense, and we're not going to care about Gallifrey anymore because it's gone. It's here.
And it makes perfect sense to not have it in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
That sounds a bit weird, but...
And
Well,
John,
he went away from Gallifrey. He didn't want to be on Gallifrey.
and John, I remember under RTD1, didn't we have that strange globe, and then the Daleks came out of it, and he always likes to have some mystery object, and now we've got a big box. It's deal or no deal.
I don't know what it is, but you're right. It's retread. This is a man who quite rightly told the truth when he left Doctor Who that he has no ideas. He didn't write during the Moffat era because he had no ideas. He didn't write during the Chibnall era because guess what? According to him, he had no further ideas. And all of a sudden, he's got seasons and seasons and seasons worth of ideas. Guess what? He didn't, because what we're getting is retreads of what he did before. And retreads are never as good as they were first time round.
I know. I see. I'm seeing elements of Star Wars. I'm seeing elements of people are saying WandaVision.
I don't watch any of this. You know me. I don't do science fiction as such. Doctor Who's my one and only love. I don't do Star Wars so I don't see those links. But what I do see within the franchise itself, that this is stuff. And if I see it, my husband, who sat and watched this episode with me, said, hold on a second, isn't this a bit like the Master did in The Sound of Drums and yada yada? So a casual viewer like him spots it, so will others.
Yes. So there you go, the great trailer there, it's out there. Why the Rani would want the seal of Razalon on her wall is beyond me when she's a renegade Time Lord. This is
exactly.
She might as well use her experience to bring Rassilon back at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Might as well just go full on, you know.
Yeah, Timothy Dalton must be there somewhere. So anyway, I've delayed tonight because we're getting close to the end of the season. So of course, burning issues is what we normally talk about. So here we go. That was the warm up for them. They're ready now. Here we go. Okay, now if memory serves me right, definitely something said by Michelle when you sent your scores in was the member berries and relying too much on callbacks.
The whole episode was a flashback. Every 2 seconds is a flashback of things that even happened earlier in the episode. And this is only 46 minutes long. This is not a long episode. And yet they're doing flashbacks to things they're relying too much on the memory. Oh, here's the doctors you really like. You know, here they go. This is a second time in an 8-episode season so far that we've had flashbacks to the past Doctors.
I failed to mention that on my Who night last night, and there's the callbacks that people can talk about, but the flashbacks. I thought, do you know what? In a short episode of it, like you say, an 8-part series, to rely on there's the flashbacks of the Doctors, there's a flashback of the Rani. That means you're doing a lot of easy, quick shortcutting because the story can't just be told on the screen. You have to start playing all these silly gizmos. Surely that's the problem. And I'll come to the exposition later because, my God, what a load of nonsense. But Rachel, I mean, do you like this calling back, this flashbacks, this using our canon?
No, for a series that doesn't want to rely too much on the past, it doesn't have to rely too much on the past, doesn't it? I put it down to the fact that they were definitely gearing up to a regeneration as well, which is why they started adding these bits in. Because sometimes when he's close to a regeneration, that's what happens. Sometimes, not all the time, but yeah, it's just not needed. Just do the story.
And the thing is, if you look there, Toymaker, Sutek, the invisible monster that's not been explained even from midnight yet, Omega and the Rani. Paul, I can't recall, even if I was having a fan geeky moment, ever wanting any of them back.
Likewise, the whole point of Omega was that he was momentous. When he appeared in The Three Doctors, right from the start, there was a portent of how great he was, a portent of what he stood for. And when he eventually appeared, he was frightening. Obviously, Stephen Thorne had a huge hand in that, but he was impressive. There was gravitas attached with him. The Doctors were both fearful and respectful of him, and they moved heaven and earth to try and keep him safe within the confines of his own megalomania. So that episode, that story was also, of course, a celebration of 10 years of Doctor Who. So it served a twofold process, and it delivered on both of them. Arc of Infinity, I was surprised to see him back, and as a young man watching it, I was glad to see a returning villain. There were some good elements to it, but it's not my favorite. But there's in the context of what we're getting now, any returning villain with gravitas should be left alone. We should wish fervently in this Wishworld to leave them where they are, because they're going to be ruined. And Davies seems to delight in ridiculing them. It's not just a case of bringing them back and not doing it very well. He seems to delight in ridiculing them, in infantilizing them. Sutek was infantilized. He would have been not out of place in something like Scooby-Doo or something like that. I know a lot of people have made reference to that, but that's because it's true. He made it a cartoon, mocked character, comedic, for all the wrong reasons, and he'll do much the same with Omega. I
thought it was a shame that, in Space Babies, he wanted to land the babies on a planet to help them out, and with Sutek, he could have taken him to Battersea Dogs Home. I think there was a possibility there. John, I mean, I feel as though this is utter laziness. If me and you had co-written a script and sent it to the BBC and said, we're going to have the Toymaker, the Rani, we're going to have blah, 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 they'd say, go away, it's not original, go and get us some talent. They wouldn't have entertained it.
Yeah, they absolutely would. And interestingly, this is what happened towards what was the first attempt to axe Doctor Who. It was referencing its past too much. It was being geared towards core fans. At that point, I think there was an Uber fan working in the production office as a consultant, and there was a whole lot of stuff put on screen which should never really have got to screen. Ordinary viewers wouldn't have known who Omega was, despite the fact it was the 20th anniversary. And Paul's right, it was nice to see him, and I as a fan enjoyed that. But that could have been anybody. In effect, in Johnny Byrne's original script, it was somebody else. And then, of course, we got that whole season with those links to the past. We get to Colin Baker's season, which you have Daleks, Cybermen, Master, Santarans. It's all going on there. So there's real links back to that. And that usually happens as a sign of desperation when you're trying to, as I said, 15, 20 minutes ago, hang on to that core audience. The same core audience you told to go whistle only 20 minutes before. So, if Doctor Who is to survive, and I've said this week in, week out, it has to grow its audience, of course, but it does that by doing one thing and one thing only, telling good stories. That's how the original Doctor Who lasted for 26 years. It didn't reference its past so much until near the end when it thought it had to. And only when it stopped doing that towards the end of the McCoy era did it really start to find its mojo again. Learn what you will out of that.
Yeah, so but you see, it's not just Omega who's coming back, and I have to say, we all know this, don't we? I mean, the next episode, the final episode, is about an hour long. He hasn't arrived yet. Susan might arrive. I mean, they might arrive in the same taxi for all I know. I mean, blooming hell.
I told you, Brenda, they're going to arrive in a four-wheeled kitchen sink, you know, and Omega probably will be played by Peter Davison. I won't be at all surprised by that because he played the part of Omega. Because
Omega, yeah. The Rice Krispies man.
Don't be at all surprised if Davison shows his chops.
I would be disgusted if Omega was a man. It's about time he was a woman. Yeah, let's have him as a woman. And the Rani should be a man.
The only thing that would make me interested, because I'm a Davison fan to see him ever he ever does that. But at the same time, what I hate to see like another character being belittled, because not only is it shows supreme arrogance on RTD that he can bring them back, but he can write them better.
Well, and we'll say that about the Rani. So one of your burning issues, Rachel, was this, well, I'll call it the Sonic.
Well, yeah, I do have two burning issues. This is probably the more minor of the two. You all know what I think of the Sonic. Yeah, get rid of it. Yeah, get it done. But I had the issue with the fact that RTD finds the Sonic screwdriver problematic now for Ncuti. But it's not problematic to put it onto the Rani, who never had one to begin with.
Yeah.
So, and I reckon the argument that he would use there is the fact that she's the villain, so she can have one, so it's okay. But no, if it's one boot fits all, then you can't have what we've got on the screen. Sorry.
Yeah.
And we all know what it looks like. We all know what it looks like.
Yeah.
Calling Dr. Freud.
Yeah. But
well, there's that. But if she borrowed the 15th Doctor's, it would also be problematic as
yes,
well.
it would. Yeah.
This is the problem with that.
I just think the Sonic should go because it doesn't allow for creative writing.
Oh, Rachel, you killjoy. He wants to get so much packed into 40 minutes. Don't slow it up.
Well, he's just doing this so he can sell it.
Exactly, I know.
Money.
And of course, the other one, I mean, is the confusion. Of course, he's a progressive writer. Let's be respectful. RTD, very progressive.
Yeah.
He knows that we need diversity and inclusion. So he thought, we've already had a male Time Lord come back, the Master. So I need a female. Oh God, it's the Rani. But the Rani's nothing like the Master. But I know what I'll do. I'll bring the Rani back and turn her into the Master because actually this plot needs the Master.
And this is the issue that I have. This tweet, so it's not necessarily directly related per se. I presented it as a separate thing, but this tweet, if people who are not so much associated with the classic era of Doctor Who and have no idea who the Rani is, and they see this, and it's not the portrayal, it's the writing, see this on the screen, then, and they can only see the juxtaposition to the Master, then you've got a problem because it's not the same character. You've changed the character if that is all you are seeing on the screen. There is no experiment going on as far as we can tell. She seems very vengeful. She wants to bring Omega back for what? Other than, obviously, well, it's going to be something to do with Gallifrey. But since when does a renegade Time Lord have interest in bringing back Gallifrey? She was banished.
Yeah.
So that does not make any sense. And so why is she presenting like the Master? Well, because RTD does not know how to write the Rani. He does not know what to do for this character.
But
I don't think he does.
But she's an Indian queen, so it ticks boxes. Whee! But the other thing is, and I'll ask the whole panel here because somebody might have an idea. Plot-wise, is there a plot hole here? Because the Rani's amazing scheme, she normally likes to just get drugs out of your ear roll and stuff like that and clear your ears out and stuff like that. But suddenly, She wants to create a world on top of a world, like a wallpaper of reality where we're all in the 1950s and traditional rules and blah, blah, blah. And once you do that, when the doubts create themselves, then she rips that up, and underneath it, like the soft underbelly, is Omega. Hold on a minute. Why does she need to
Antimatter, though.
But why did she have to create this other world on top? Why doesn't she want to just peel away the earth in the first place and see what's underneath? Why do we need to do a lie of a world to then say the lie is a lie? I don't understand what the hell's going on here. Does anyone?
I don't.
No. I mean, it's
nothing
well
like it.
within her character to say that she wants to rule, take over a planet, like she did in the time and the Rani. I always get them mixed up. So, but what's going on here makes currently no sense whatsoever. It's difficult because obviously we still have the second part of this to go, but it's just, I don't know.
Unless she's trying to keep the doctor passive and not meddling in the plans, but then she reveals everything at the same time. So,
and how is bringing back Omega an experiment?
Yeah, and if it's another blooming god. I am so bored with gods, and I didn't want Omega back. I didn't want Rani back. I'd love a new character, please. Thank you.
Me too. Yeah.
But
yes, it's my concern that people cannot differentiate between the two characters, especially when they've got nothing to go on with the Rani except for 2 stories disregarding children in need. Okay, I'll just say that.
And I am disregarding. I know. And they showed the clip from Children in Need, and now people are saying it's canon. Get over yourselves. They used a clip because it's the most recent one of Kate O'Mara. John, did you see that? Last night when you were probably tucked into bed, I was still streaming. And I showed people this, and it was set up by Antonio, and he said, is actually, sadly, coincidentally, the Rani the harbinger of the end of Doctor Who? Because if you take a look at this, 85, Rani appears. Then we have the hiatus, 87, Rani appears. 89, Doctor Who's cancelled. He brings the Rani back again. Oops.
Yeah, well, I said that.
And she's riding her white horse.
Without referencing the tweet you put down below, there is a tweet. I refer you back to what I said earlier. The history seems to be repeating itself anyway in terms of Doctor Who being in the hands of a producer who seems to think by referencing its past constantly, he's going to keep people interested. But it's just purely a person who's out of ideas and doesn't know what else to do with the program. And that mixed message of, we want new people, but at the same point, I want to hang on to the hardcore. The Rani may well be a harbinger of what's yet to come. Our Binger, maybe that's what she's going to be in terms of this. I don't know, but I just know that the game's up. Definitely and absolutely for this program, the game is up.
But come on, we've got to be positive. Mel's come back.
Actually, that was me being positive. Actually, I was positive.
And she's behold the pale horse, and for it was death. Here she comes riding across on the.
There is a positive with Mel coming back in this story. Your ears were safe.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, look, she's got a nice cardi on. She's a spinster. I mean. And I saw RTD mentioning this on Unleashed, saying it's the Conrad world again, because that Conrad, he's such a rotter. Is
this the world where apparently we're told that being a mother, a stay-at-home mother of that, is a terrible thing to be? Because that essentially was the message that I took from that last night, that in this world, therefore I'm sure they're editorializing, that those women who in their lives have chosen to stay at home, bring up their children and be happy with that, are in some way being oppressed. Is that correct?
Well, says RTD, the great expert on everything. I mean,
it is an oppression.
Sorry, can we also talk about how Carla Sunday, who has been set up as a lovely character in Church on Ruby Road, has constantly been portrayed as a horrible mother who constantly kicks her child out?
Yeah,
she's a horrible mother.
What do you have against mothers?
Well, maybe RTD and Conrad are the same person. Maybe this is what the irony is. But look at this. Omega's coming back. The Rani's coming back. He's brought Mel back. We talk about the budget maybe being too much and they'll have to pull back. At the moment, I see no reason to have Mel in it. I see no reason to have Omega in it. I see no reason to have the Rani in it. And it just goes on. What about Susan? Come on, let's add to the top trumps collection. Susan is coming back, maybe. I will repeat what I said last week, which is, I tell you what, he does seem to be shooing her in somehow, but there are so many things going on. As I always say, that casual viewer must be going, what the heck is going on? Is this a highlights episode? Is this a clips, end of series, Golden Girls, clips of the series nonsense? I'm stunning them. Look at them. I'm stunning them. But yeah, why Susan as well? And of course, there you go, John. I'm just going to make you jealous again. There you go.
You didn't ask her mine. I got a better one than that because I'm in it. That's why it's better.
Yeah, but remember, did Caroline Ford massage your prostate?
I would like to say.
Could you explain that, please? I shouldn't. I don't like to ask, but could you possibly at least, on a limited basis,
You'll have to
explain
wait
that,
for my
please?
memoirs to find out if it happens for me.
Because
Ian's talking about Willie Stroker.
Willie Stroker.
Oh,
She put her hand up him because apparently she thought he was a puppet. He said, I'm a living being. What you doing, love? But anyway.
Well, gentlemen of a certain age, it is important to get your prostate checked regularly, and benefits of Caroline Ford.
He didn't believe I was the age I was. That's what infuriated him. He refused to believe that I was celebrating a significant birthday. The actual words were, because she was so glad to get rid of him, I can't believe you're that age.
Because she was handling Willie Stroker just before you, and who looks...
She was, but anyway, she was lovely. She was lovely, very lovely.
Right, well, John, this is your burning issue, the Doctor.
Yeah, or not to watch the Doctor. This guy is not the Doctor. I know he's not playing the Doctor, but more to the point. I refer the panel and everybody in the stream to remember that lovely Doctor Who story, Human Nature, when David Tennant played John Smith, the school teacher, and how he brought nuance and a whole different world to a doctorless doctor, if you like. And yet, in this iteration, what Ncuti Gatwa exposed to us was that how he's very good at playing flamboyant, camp, and gay. But anything other than that, he struggles with. Varada Sethu, playing the companion, was fabulous in that part. She knew exactly all the right notes to hit. But that man didn't know what to do with it. He was like a fish out of water. And this just brings me back to my point of I cannot understand why this man was cast. He does not have the range in any way, shape, or form to play the character of the Doctor. And the very fact that he occupies the same acting space that Peter Capaldi did really upsets me.
Well, Paul Tosland says he was a very convincing straight man. It just seems so pastiche and so panto. Now, Rachel, I'm going to come to you. I know.
I was not leaving away to Brendan by making light of that, because it's effectively Varada Sethu was acting her socks off, playing that part. And I mean, even the baby, Poppy, was much better in convincing me that she was his daughter than he did, that he was her father. This is a man who should have the range to play that. And remember what David Tennant's not the most popular man in Doctor Who circles at the minute. I get that. But let's recall when he was acting that part and how wonderful him and Jessica Hines, who played his love interest in that, were together. This was a different thing entirely, purely because Ncuti Gatwa doesn't have the skill.
Although, Rachel, I was saying last night, and I know you mentioned the yawn on yours, but I thought the best bit to me of his acting, if I was going to be positive, was that moment when he looked as though he thought he was found out by his office worker when he said, "You're a beautiful man."
Yeah.
I did think there, but all this, I don't know who to blame the most. I don't know whether to blame
that. That's because he can relate to that.
Yeah.
I can relate. He can't act. That's the point. He can't act.
I mean, I don't know who to blame. RTD for sending us. I mean, it had a kind of 1950s retro vibe, very traditional roles and families and Truman Show. And I was bored. I just want Doctor Who. And I'm thinking, oh, domestic bliss, all that stuff. And so I sometimes think some actors find this interesting and tricky because you're the Doctor, but you don't know who you are now. And then you're in this kind of mock 50s retro thing. And then, to be honest, the way it was directed was all very morning, sweetheart, good morning, honey. And I thought, oh, this is just too twee. It's horrible.
The writing for it wasn't good.
No.
I would say that's pretty bad. And I would also say that the direction for it was not correct. It's got to be believable, and I would say that this is the best that Verada has done. This is the worst that Ncuti has done performance-wise. And I'm not saying that he's bad because I don't do things like that because I know what it's like to be up there doing it. So it's hard doing it. But if I were the director, with that, when he sits up and he yawns, I would have nipped that in the bud and I would have worked on that and hammered that in, because I have seen the importance of being earnest. I have seen that he can do a straight character, and he is a lot better in that when he's more rehearsed and he's got more time than he is what he's doing with the Doctor here. He was miscast as the Doctor. I do agree with that. And I would just overhauled everything and really hammered that in and got on top of that. Because when you're in a augmented reality, so to speak, you have to act like you are believing 100% what is going on there. So then when the seeds of doubt come in, that's when it has more impact. Logopolis is a good example of an augmented reality. It was the fake planet that I would fear to be on, if you remember correctly. And it just works a lot better because they believe that's where they are and the actors play it that way.
And David Tennant, for example, in the aforementioned Human Nature, did look gutted when it started to unravel.
Yes.
Mad Mackham here. My daughter, who hasn't watched since Eccleston, joined me for this one. Oh, they're nice. Family night there. Her review was very, very succinct. Well, that was a whole load of BS. Good that there are still anti-woke 27-year-olds around. This is my worry. Anecdotally, you go, oh my God, you can see why this program is tanking. Anybody else want to come in? Were you going to come in then, John, on your own burning issue?
Just I'm listening to what others have said about the performance. But when you cast a Doctor, you're looking across a range of skills, I presume, so that when the story, because he will be acting for stories that haven't been written yet. So you have to make sure you have banked a whole lot of skills in that actor or actress so they're able to do that. And at the same point, as Jonathan Turner used to say, you're good at parties. So you can do the convention thing and get on with people and all those sort of things. My guess is, and it's just a guess, that this man has entranced the showrunner because he decided he wanted to make the Doctor queer friendly or gay or whatever way you want to put it, they put it these days. And this man has walked in and has entranced them, mostly with his look and with his ability to do flamboyancy, if you like.
Yeah.
What that led to is when you come to stories like this, which actually require good skills and acting chops, all the time that David Tennant gave it, that Matt Smith could give it, Peter Capaldi certainly could give it, Ncuti Gatwa is left lacking, and that's to the detriment of the programme as a whole.
And that's also a detriment to how they cast this, actually, because when you walk into a casting room, you're there to be seen because you've got something that they've seen in you quality-wise in order to take on the role. And the whole process of it is not because you are bad, it's because you are good, and they want to see if you are good enough for the material, or the right fit, I should say, for the material that they're going to be writing. And that's the whole point. I don't believe he went through a rigorous audition like they've been making out to be. I reckon it was a who you know situation rather than what you can do situation. I think he's got comedy chops. I do think that the Doctor Who range, and I gave him a really long time
Do you not remember back in the day, back in the dim and distant and grimy 1970s, it was alleged that a lot of blonde, big-busted women were cast purely because they were blonde and big-busted, because television directors and producers, that was what they liked to see, and that's what they presumed the men watching liked to see as well. I think we haven't come very far if essentially the showrunner is casting someone who he thinks is good-looking, someone who thinks looks good on screen, and puts the acting side of things second and third down the line. And I definitely think this is what's happened here.
Well, here we have, and there's more people coming back. Rogue came back. I mean, it was like a family reunion, that episode, wasn't it? Wishworld. It's like Mel, Omega, Susan, Rogue. Wow, it's like three buses come at once. It was amazing.
Brenda, you're about to say when Rogue did come back, and the doctor was looking wrong. I thought the only thing it's missing now is a bush. And then Melanie showed up, so we were fine.
No, we need Kylie Minogue as well, Paul, don't we? We need the Kylie Minogue music. Can't get you out of my head, and then we've got the full works.
It would be an awesome reveal if Rogue was Omega.
Oh, don't.
And it was a trick all along.
Paul, I'm seeing so many things. You know, because he's apparently in hell or something here.
Yeah, what's the optics of
he's burning his butt off, and so basically, remember he is there because he sacrificed himself in that Rogue episode because the doctor was so crap. So basically, he went down that chute into this horrible world where he just burns his bum all the time. And then we've got the moment when he's managing from hell to reach out to the doctor. Wow, this is like the Subwave network again. and he says, sorry, Paul, and then he says to him, about the tables nonsense, and then find me and I love you and all the rest of it. And I'm thinking, how on what planet are you wanting to reach out to people as a story? Because this is making no sense at all. And by the way, the theory I've heard, Paul, is that he might be Omega because he's in hell and we're looking for the underbelly, aren't we? We're looking for the underverse.
Yeah, of course, very likely. The problem is, although these are presented as being 2 seasons, we all know that it was essentially 1 season. So all the elements that we saw last season, I suspect at some level he's planned to reintroduce them. He's planned to make a coalescence like that we're seeing. And I'm sure he feels that it's like one of those ships in a bottle where it looks askew and then you give it one last little tug or tweak and it just becomes absolutely perfect. You can put it on your shelf and you can look at it whenever you like. But the logistics against anything of that successful nature happening are prohibitive. That there's no way that he will pull this off. It is destined for just to be completely unsuccessful, and he's only himself to blame. He could have been simple. He could have told simple stories like we used to get. Simple isn't bad. I'm a huge lover of what I call, and I think other people call, meat and potatoes Doctor Who. By the numbers Doctor Who. They'll turn up, they'll get blamed for whatever thing is happening, they'll build up a rapport with the supporting actors, they'll help them, they'll be helped by them. The assistant will, as well as being a conduit for what's happening and what the doctor's thinking between us and the doctor, he is also a conduit for the supporting characters in the doctor. And it works perfectly. I could watch that on a loop, and I frequently do. Davies has either forgotten all of that or thinks that his way is better. And there's, like a lot of you say, there's nobody to tell him otherwise, or there is nobody to whom he will listen. And it amounts to the same thing. And this is what we get.
I think familiarity breeds contempt. And in RTD's case, he is contemptuous of Doctor Who, just doing more Doctor Who. He's bored. He wants to do something different. For example, isn't this Silence in the Library all over again? This is Dr. Moon and the stories and the parallel thing, and Doctor Who and the Deadly Wish, and of course, yes, it looks.
And also the rip off of the first edition of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the message, isn't it? That's the message.
And is that because, as in his world, J.K. Rowling is now an evil storyteller?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, because while he's working for a public service organisation, he seems to be having digs at people, and he's getting paid for the privilege.
Although, imagine a meta-integrated message like this one in the story without making a big song and dance about it.
So I mean, I've got
Yeah.
burning issues all over the place. I mean, some people said this was the best acting going because he's a gay man and he was really trying to act his socks off that that he did actually get Belinda pregnant to have Poppy. I mean, hello, Poppy's real, that's what he said. But I just want to show you this. I call this crap exposition. This is what I mean. I won't test you. Have a look at this. It all makes sense now. Voiced at blatant energy to the power of 5, roughly the equivalent of a billion supernova. The Vindicator created a web of titanic power ready for me to use and give me power to amplify the wishes of a god. I need the Doctor trapped inside a wish because this isn't just exposition, Doctor. I need to tell you everything so that your doubt becomes all-consuming. A Time Lord's doubt tips open the structure of reality itself. Once reality is broken on a scale like this, I can see deep within the universe. I think she would cure those who can't sleep. It's hypnotic, isn't it? It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
That had me rolling. Obviously, Archie is just delivering the words that she has to deliver in the best way that she possibly can. But this just is an exposition.
Yeah, just because you think it isn't doesn't mean that it isn't. He thinks think about this man, Russell Davis. He thinks he's been terribly clever by injecting those couple of words in there, and we're all going to go, "Oh, isn't he smart? Isn't he clever?" And we'll all sit back and go, "No, it isn't exposition because he said it isn't," and it is.
Oh, it
it's
is.
The worst excesses of Chibnall, who was a hack.
Yeah.
I will say I like what's being said, but I would have liked to have seen the visual of it going on. That's what I would have liked to have seen, because I think that would have created more suspense. I don't mind it being a voiceover per se, if they were to do it that way, that's fine.
I don't think
to have seen it.
I don't think they're good enough anymore, RTD and Chibnall, because the show not tell, and this is just too much. I always understood if a Dalek is chasing you down a corridor, I got it. I could understand it. I didn't need 10 pages of exposition saying, if you walk slowly, he'll get you. I could understand it. And of course, Terry Nation understood it. That Dalek is trying to make that bomb to kill all those people there, and we've got to stop them. It was clear. Like you were saying, Paul, about, basic, simple narrative for Doctor Who, get the kids motivated, and Jeopardy. There was no Jeopardy in that episode unless you're worried about being turned into a duck. I mean, honestly, pathetic. What a waste of time. So, exposition, useless. But it got worse, Paul. We had the camp. Honestly. Honestly, it just triggered me. You've got all the people here, all the dispossessed, he called them, the misfits, and there's one. Honestly, is she deaf, blind? Is there something else that might have her in that camp? I was just looking at the colours. Has she failed RuPaul auditions? I was just trying to work out. But honestly, Michelle, you must think, God, this is why I like Doctor Who. There's so many layers.
Well, it's like Doctor Who has turned into group therapy now. I mean, to me, it was like we don't want to show disabled people as baddies, okay? But then it's like, they're disabled. They're magical. They have superpowers. And I find that even more demeaning to people who have. And again, not all disabilities can be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Sir X-Man here, thank you very much. But I'll bring it in because it's a new point. And actually, JWC Reviews was saying this. That baby, the white baby, because there's another baby, the Poppy baby, that baby is going to be the fugitive Doctor Watch. And, remember when Doctor Who was good, the 3 doctors, and the recorder was the only thing in the TARDIS that wasn't anti-matter. You remember all that stuff?
Yes.
So I think it was JWC Reviews saying that Poppy will be the only element like the recorder, and she'll be the unraveling of it all. I still have concerns because the rumour about Rose, and everyone says Billy Piper, and I thought, well, there's another character called Rose who has had regeneration energy in her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and it's somebody that we've seen before.
Yes, and we know she's back in the last episode, Rose Noble. But just to show I'm...
Is she? Just when I thought I couldn't get any more excited.
Well, shoplifting is rife now, you know. So anyway, then we had another speech about you can't see us and all the rest of it. And you know what? I started to lose the will to live. So basically, I suppose we better get to our kind of judgment time on what we want to say about the narrative and whether this is who. Everybody in the thread, I've seen the numbers and I've seen the reasons. It's going to be good fun tonight because I have to say, I said to Jamie last night when I'd seen the episode, I said, you know what, there's going to be a point very soon I just lose it, and I'm very close. I am going to lose it on Doctor Who because I have had enough of waiting for Doctor Who to arrive. I think it's time for us to start discussing scores on doors and stuff like that. So I will start to tiptoe us through the event. So, you know, we have the Tombstone Totaliser. Those are the scores from season 1. I just quickly show them there. You can see 79 was the high figure, 27 was the low figure. Last week, that's where we stood. We had the Wells are still on 101 in the lead. And in last place, there is the story and the engine. So that's where we are. And so we're going to be now judging Wishworld. And that was where I was going to go. So are you ready, folks? First of all, do you know I ballsed up last week? Well, hello, something new there. Yeah. What did I not ask you to do? I didn't ask you for predictions.
That was probably because I dropped out.
That's it. There's a reason.
It probably was that, and you thought, oh, it's okay. She's not here. Let's not ask.
What were the ratings for this week?
1.83.
My prediction was 1.84. I had it written down. Just didn't ask me.
Yeah, I know. Right. Anyway, so we're going to ask you this week. So here we go. Yeah, I thought I'd give you. Well, I'll give Paul a heart attack there. So there you go, 1.83 million, just to confirm it. So that's where we stand. First part of a finale, and all these great characters coming back. Sarcasm's rich here. Just want to show you before I ask you your figures. That's the overall scenario. You can see green is a lot better than red, and we're getting a lot more red in this series, whether it's overnight, 7 days, or consolidated 7 days. So you can see that the Interstellar Song Contest is a long way away now. We've gone 740,000 down again. We're still 220,000 down for the season. Right, okay then. So you can see, and just to help you out, Season 1, when we got to the Legend of Ruby Sunday, we got to 2.02 million, and it jumped by 230,000 for the finale when they caught the dog. So what do you reckon? If it's 1.83 now, last year it bounced by about 230,000. I'll start first to be fair to you. I'm going to say 1.88. Okay? I'm saying 1.88 because, yes, there should be a bounce. You'd hope for a blooming bounce. But I have to say, I don't know if anybody would want to watch part 2 after watching that part 1 if you were just a casual viewer, because they'll have thought that was kind of mumbo jumbo. So I've put 1.88. John, your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree in terms of there was nothing really at the end of this to set itself up as being, you know, as pulling people in the next. You know, you imagine you get the reveal of a Dalek or Cybermen or Master, whoever it is. You get some big cliffhanger where the Doctor falling off a cliff almost, you know, in a balcony. And that was the cliffhanger. A lot of stuff there, but people mystified about. It was a pretty slow-paced episode. I don't see how that picks up viewers. To me, it'll lose them. Particularly on the other side, you've got the final, live final.
Yep.
Something else I hate, Britain's Got Talent. But nonetheless, punters will be steered towards it. So I think the ratings will drop, not go up. So in terms of 1.83 last night?
Yep.
Okay, 1.8.
Okay, 1.8. So Michelle?
1.75.
Okay, I'm writing them down this time rather than me ballsing it up. Rachel?
I think that there will be a slight bump, but not a big one. So I'm going 1.86 million.
All right. And last but not least, Paul?
Nobody. I don't think anybody will be watching this.
Wait,
Nobody.
five.
Not even
Five.
us.
I'll
Not even us.
five. That's five.
So when we come back and do the review next week, it's all on a whim. We'll just have to guess.
No,
Wing it. We'll
Wing
just
it.
wing it.
I think
That's good
Paul's being meta because, of course, the world ends on the 24th of May 2025 anyway. So
Oh,
this
wait.
is, yeah,
Wait, we're
So,
still
yeah.
here.
we still, oh my God. So you mean that was all a load of,
Something just occurred to me. Did we ever mention the fact how, if the world ended on May the 24th, were they able to get that Eurovision guy into cryogenic suspension so he could appear hundreds of years later on the thing? Did we mention that last week?
no, it wasn't expected.
Even with the program's own logic, that didn't make sense. Oh,
Well, it didn't make sense, did it? There was no reality because he'd
No.
obviously been to the dentist, and everybody knows now there's no dentists in the UK left. So, it made no sense at all. Well, okay. Thank you very much, Mad Mackham. He thinks because I'm a Middlesbrough fan, I've ignored him. I just didn't see it. So, yeah, that's why John looks younger, according to Caroline Ford.
not just according to Caroline Ford, actually.
So Mad Mackham, Sunderland fan, that's the context. Sunderland got promoted yesterday, Middlesbrough didn't. So basically, thank you very much. That's very, very generous of you. You must be really ecstatic and on an adrenaline rush. Made myself a bet. If Sunderland won, money for the Hoopettes kibbles or whatever they eat. Oh, let me think what I like. Oh, sorry, what they're like, yeah. P.S. Didn't expect I would have to pay... PPS Rouge had enough time to say the whole plot. What there was of one. There wasn't there wasn't a plot, and it wasn't one that appealed to me. But thanks for that, Madam Mackham. Have you got back to Sunderland? Are you all still partying? You deserve to be. I was jealous as hell. I was cheering you on at the same time. However, yeah, Middlesbrough is still languishing, nowhere in sight. It's sad. So Tombstone Totaliser time. I've got that. Well, I've got your grades for next week for the end of the series, so we can now move ahead with this. Reminders for lots of people who are joining us. We objectively review. Outstanding, you mark out of 10 on 3 criteria, and you can see how we rate it. Outstanding obviously is better than special measures. There you go. And we judge the first one on safeguarding of Doctor Who, because if you're going to judge a Doctor Who episode, was it like Doctor Who? Was the Doctor like the Doctor? Did it make sense? Or have they bust canon like the Timeless Child? So basically, John, over to you.
I'm going to keep this short and sweet. While Ncuti Gatwa remains in the role of the Doctor in Doctor Who, I will have to continue to give this the lowest possible mark available to me, because he is not playing any recognisably Doctor-like character that I would see at all. So it will be 0 today, 0 tomorrow, and 0 on. This is not Doctor Who.
Right, that's clear enough. Michelle?
I'm going to give this a 4. This is boo-hoo. This season has not been recognizably Doctor Who.
I am struggling. I'll hold back. Rachel?
Yeah, it's a 4 for me as well. It was a bit mixed. It has fundamentals of it thrown in, but that's what a lot of the exposition was doing. And it just didn't really meet the mark. There was not enough in the middle going on. And Gatwa's acting was very questionable at the beginning. It was better towards the end. Beginning, I don't know what he was doing.
He's more interested in what he looks like and what he sounds like or acts like, which is unfortunate, but it's true. I think it's a bit. It reminds me a bit like Dynasty in Dallas back in the 80s, where they were more concerned with how the actors looked than how they acted.
You see, look at this photograph here, Paul. It gets to the point where I'm thinking it's not Doctor Who, it's a Marvel-like episode where we bring all the different characters from all the comic strips and we put them together. So to me, I could see what he was doing, but I didn't think it was Doctor Who. What about you, Paul?
I recognised elements of things that Davies used to do, which were very watered down versions of the things that he used to do. I very much liked the opening sequence with the Rani in the forest. I really did like that. That spoke to me of Doctor Who. But generally, no. This was it tried to be too clever in it, and all it managed was to be dull. I kept looking at the clock, and I was wondering if anything was going to happen. It was about there was 15 minutes left at one point.
Yeah.
There was just nothing had happened.
Yeah.
Nothing had really happened.
Yeah.
And the worst thing to do, if you're going to have a two-parter, the worst thing to do is make the first part the weakest, most inconsequential part. You know, I mean, for instance, with Hellbent, that was an excellent episode, and then you had what I thought was a very lackluster follow-up. Was it Heaven Sent, the second part? Was that right?
Yeah.
Or was it Hellbent, the second
Hellbent,
part?
yes.
The one where he was in that diamond and he was trapped in the confession.
That was Heaven Sent, that one, with the lovely music.
Okay, sorry, Heaven Sent.
Yeah.
So if you're going to make one shine, make it the first one, and then you've got some kind of platform. So even if it fails, people the integrity and the success of that first one. But this, of course, is the reverse. I don't expect the second one to be any better. But even if it were, there's no platform upon which it can be built, and hailed as being so.
And you know, Doctor Who in the end, normally you have a companion in peril or the Doctor in peril. By the way, can I just say, I think New Who is dead. I don't think in classic Who we didn't necessarily have all these silly narrative arcs. We just had another story. It might be Horns of Nymon for all we care.
Yeah, yeah.
And so all this arc stuff. So I don't know. I'm honestly, I don't know. Am I bothered about the Doctor? Well, he seems a bit of a prat. He had a woman lead him around, dragging him around, dancing with him, saying, I've got to tell you all this because I want to make you doubt stuff. And then she snaps the balcony into his death, and he still wants to talk. This man in Robot Revolution, he shouts at a rocket taking off. I know you all told me off at the time saying there's a bit of drama.
It was just me, actually. I told you off. Nobody else did, to be fair.
But Paulie did it again. He's falling on his balcony and he's going, there's a bit more dialogue to tell you. Poppy is my daughter. I mean, honestly. So
hold on, Brendan. I just to back up my particularly low score on this, is that Paul quite rightly gave a very good summation of what good Doctor Who was. It's a formula that was stuck to for very many years, not only in just classic Doctor Who, but in New Who as well. The Doctor rides into town, you know, it's like the Lone Ranger sorts out a problem and then leaves again. And that's roughly what the programme is about. Last night's episode, apart from having a character in it who supposedly the Doctor, who couldn't perform what the function of the Doctor should be, was in that he's in an unreal situation, and then he slowly begins to talk about what's wrong about it. It's the Rani who eventually unpacks that for him. So the Doctor didn't even do what the Doctor should do within the confines of this unreal system. So I just do not recognise this as being in any way like the Doctor Who that all of us grew up with, and more particularly the Doctor Who that Russell Davies grew up with. So he is, to my mind, the Rani now. He's experimenting on this programme and turning it into something that it shouldn't be. And ultimately, as with maybe most experiments going wrong, it'll end up in the bin.
But it's just that we had the witch. I called it HR Puffin stuff. You have, you know, or Count Dooku here, you know, riding on her kind of bony jet ski. It wasn't Doctor Who. The Rani doesn't show off like that. The Rani's quite clinical and ruthless and quite parochial and regional. And she doesn't like the male ego crap. So she's now gone for female ego and she's gone big. This isn't the Rani at all. So that she's in Doctor Who. I don't recognise the character. I don't recognise this bony kingdom. It feels like it's some other movie or some other franchise. It doesn't feel like Doctor Who. Unit still doesn't feel like Doctor Who. I still don't recognise Unit, even when it's pretending to be Unit. I'm not getting any Jeopardy. I'm not seeing any real death. Because actually, if the kids get turned into ducks, they're still alive, technically. That wasn't a death. The mother died. And then the husband's turned into an owl. There wasn't much blooming going on. The dinosaurs, what the hell were they about? So basically, I felt as though I was just being kind of distracted by stuff, and yet there was no Doctor Who going on. There was no running around corridors, none of that. Where's the nasty monster? Nowhere in sight. So I struggled with all of this.
It's a structural mess. I'll get to the script later, but it was a structural mess.
Yeah. And so basically, I'm just checking, have I asked everybody about safeguarding of who?
Yeah.
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go for our Tombstone Totalizer. I think I tell you what, I'm dying to see how we go on this one. Here we go. Yes, that Sutek needs Gaviscon, doesn't he? I mean, that's what he needs. So here we go. Scores on the doors. Paul 2, John 0, Michelle and Rachel 4, and myself 2. Oh dear.
Oh dear.
This is out of 50, and this is the finale. And I think we do speak for most Doctor Who fans. I do. Here we go. So 12 out of 50. 12 out of 50. Oops, RTD, you've dropped a clanner there. But I think we all know that the criteria 2 normally pulls us up a little bit, and then criteria 3 is going to get tasty. So here we go. Next one, John. Use of production resources. Now, remember, just everybody in the thread, what happens here is there's too many production resources to talk about. And yes, sometimes some stories have more money, some have less. That's not our point. Our point is, did it create impact? Did it work in what we were getting delivered? Anyway, over to you, John.
Yeah, and you're quite right when you say things get better in this section, because what we're dispassionately looking at perhaps the effects, the acting, and what have you. The things perhaps that Russell Davies doesn't have a hand in, which probably helps. I think I saw a fair bit of money spent on this. Not that Doctor Who needs it, but if there's money's there, let's see it up front. And I think this looked expansive. It looked pretty epic. I quite liked the destruction of London. I liked the views across the city and the stomping dinosaurs. I don't know quite why they're there or what's going on with them, but I quite liked the look of them. The opening with the Rani in Bavaria was all very well shot. It gave the programme a sense of scale, I thought, which was terribly good as well. I have to say that Archie Punjab, is that her name? Yeah, the actress who played the Rani, did an excellent job. I was particularly impressed with how she tackled the Rani. I think she was just the right side of chewing the carpet, which Kate O'Mara managed as well. This idea of just about reaching the top, but not falling over the top of it. Where she wasn't helped was by the script and that gobbledygook that you read earlier on, Brendan, that she had to say. But she, my goodness, did she sell it? And she managed to sell it in a way that a lesser actress would have made it look like what it was, which was garbage. But she made the best of it that she could. I thought her and Anita Dobson worked very well together. Although ultimately, I do think there should be no bi-generation and allow Anita Dobson to have been the Rani all by herself, which would have aided this tremendously. So I also like the incidental music this time around as well. I think Murray Gold was better this time. There were some themes in there which just played at the right times, allowed me to do so. But at the central of this was Mr. Gatwa and his performance, which ultimately pulls the thing down for me. A couple of odd directorial choices, you're quite right, when it came to that scene in the bed. It was, I don't know if we were being set up Terry and June like, sitcom land, all that sort of stuff. It was a bit too on the nose for my liking. I would have liked the so-called unreal situation for us as viewers to have looked as real and conventional as possible before we're able to unpeel it and see the unreality of it. So it was all a bit too much on the nose there. But generally speaking, acting was good, effects were good, and it was an entertaining thing to look at, if not to experience, if you understand what I mean.
Okay, Michelle?
I mean, well, it looks fine and pretty. It's, and you know that the crew was working their hearts out to produce something that's wonderful. So I'll give it a higher rating. But at the same time, it's like polishing, you know what? I mean, you can make it look nice, but after a while, it's still going to be, you know what? I mean, my heart breaks for the crew who love the show, who are putting their heart out on it, who are now like, yes, we finally get the big budget we want. And it's like, okay, this is what we have to work with.
This shot is. What did everybody think on set design? As an example, there's a certain look going on here, but I felt as I was watching Doctor Who meets the Flintstones in Las Vegas or something. It just felt very Barney Rubble.
My mom keeps going, she's got the tiniest waist. It's like, yeah, she does. It's beautiful.
It's just wait for this. Why would she need to? She's always been a tiny lady.
Yeah. I think in EastEnders recently.
She's being wasted. She is a great actress and a great character. I think this is wasting her talents.
But yeah, so set design, I thought there were some funny choices, this bony idea, and it just felt, because remember when you saw the Flintstones movie, that you saw the world, but it still looked extremely plastic, and there was an element where I thought this looked very plastic.
The shine of it. You can see the shine of it.
And so the Bone Palace, not, if I'm judging it on that, it's going to go low. Rachel, what did you think overall for production?
Well, I quite like the set for the Bone Palace, so I just want to throw that in there. But anyway, I'm mostly going to talk about the script, but I do want to address Rani, both Ranis. I think that they had probably the best of that. They did the best that they could with what they could with the writing. I will say that, the writing was very much not the Rani in this case, but it's very clear that both actors sat down, they talked about it, they worked out what they were going to do, because you could see fundamentally that they were the same, and they were pretty similar to Kate as well, I would say. But then they have their own little sort of facet that they brought to it as well, in addition to that. So I think they did what they could, and they essentially held up the story along with Baby Poppy there as well. All three of those were the ones that held up the story. I don't like the idea, though, that RTD is bringing back Omega. I think that's too much. I think these characters that you don't see very often need to be characters that you don't see very often. And I'm concerned the reason why he's bringing back Omega is because he does not know what to do with the Rani. I've already said that. And this script borrows way too much. It borrows way too much. I've written down that silence in the library, turn left, good omens. Now, I made a particular reference to Big Finish yesterday with the natural history of fear.
Yeah.
But I know some people were comparing it to something else, and I can't remember what story it was. What was it?
Human Resources, by any chance, for Big Finish. Big Finish did a story called Human. Sorry to interrupt. I was just trying to support what you were saying. Big Finish did an excellent story called Human Resources, where the Doctor and his assistant were in like an office setting, and it was all a means to use their mental processes to engineer and actually drive some sort of war machine or something, if I remember correctly.
I can't remember, but I can't remember that story specifically. No, but the main comparison that I drew was the natural history of fear, where they're in an augmented reality. And they were not allowed to ask questions, because if they did ask questions, they would be taken off and they would be reprocessed and put back into society. And there was one day per year that they all had off, and they could ask as many questions as they liked. And the Doctor was known as the editor, and he was like putting out were they putting out stories in this audio drama?
Yeah.
Of
I think the creatures of that world. Yeah.
And that's what Conrad was serving the purpose for. And the reason why I drew that parallel is because I've listened to that story so many times, and I saw it immediately, and I heard it immediately. And okay, you can borrow from it, but it was too much like it, I think. And there was a lot of that was going on in the middle, and there was too much chatty, which is fine for the audio play. It works in the audio play, but it doesn't work on the screen. You need to sort of stay away from that, or introduce the fear factor into that. I think that there was the plot that was happening was at the beginning and at the end. And I think what they needed to do was ditch the bit that was going on in the middle, or use it, but move the the ending sort of into the middle as well with it and introduce Omega earlier. And I think it would have made it a bit more interesting. I think the structure was all over the place. Omega should have been the cliffhanger. That's what I think.
Oh,
That opening sequence with the Rani should have been the main story. The Doctor
Oh,
and his
so good.
companion should have arrived in that forest. The Rani was perhaps trying to interfere with human evolution because that's what she does. And she was probably doing it just to see what results would happen as opposed to some sort of megalomaniacal sort of bent, because that's not what she is, as we've discussed. So it doesn't matter to me, as I've said before, how impressive are the components of a production. If they're not deployed in the way that I want, then I won't give them much credit. I'll give some credit for that first sequence with the Rani because it really impressed me, but nothing else did. There was nothing else as far as I'm concerned.
it's interesting, yeah. The set, I've mentioned set design, which seemed to bother me a little bit because it took me out of reality. Hello, I'm sorry. I'm interested because, you know, sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree. That's the whole point of it. But I normally love Murray Gold's music, John. And I know you kind of said you mostly liked it in this one. I struggled with, I thought, in the end, he has a Rani beat now. And I thought it was, I felt as though I was getting a chisel hammering my head. I thought, how... God, you're playing that, and it's like playing the master theme from Terror of the Autons on a loop forever. It's like, oh my God, all right. There was an element, so that's just my opinion, that I just felt as though the music just got, all right, it's the Rani again. Yeah, it's the Rani again, whatever. Do you know what? You pay for that set at Unit, and then you suddenly have a writer called RTD who says, this week I want it to look 50s, and then have to empty everything again and pay for more money to put some old-fashioned desks and typewriters in. This man just doesn't know how to save money. And does it have any impact? Well, I was bored by that, so no. Can we just have Unit as Unit? In fact, can I have Unit, please? There was just so much money spent on things that had no impact on me. That shot there, which is the great cliffhanger, boring. It's a cartoon. Boring. Don't care. I saw that with Star Beast. In fact, it was a different effect because all the streets turned into blancmange, didn't they? And then they kind of healed themselves because we like to do hocus pocus crap. So basically, honestly, but maybe that was more yellowy orange. This one's more pink. Maybe next year we'll go green. I mean, is that it? So
this is the contradiction, isn't it? That you can be lavish, you can spend all of this money, but you still manage to shortchange the show. That's what's happened.
Yeah.
That's what's happened. If you spend all this money trying for the supposed betterment of Doctor Who, but we're all sitting here saying that we don't recognize it as such, then that just amounts to a colossal waste of money. With you seemingly he can do with impunity, because nobody, as we've all said, and as many people have said, nobody's holding him to account, literally and figuratively.
And
The
this
problem is, I see with Doctor Who doesn't need money. The whole point of Doctor Who is it was a BBC production, and the BBC have never had any money to do anything lavish. So when you give Doctor Who a huge budget, as they obviously have done here, well, first of all, I'm not seeing much sign of it. But when you do see it, it's usually a bang, a flash, a bit of CGI, and whatever. But effectively, what the bigger budget has obviously allowed the writers to do is to get away from sort of actors in rubber suits marauding human beings or companions, which is essentially the meat and drink of Doctor Who. You know, so you have these big grand concepts of stock big dinosaurs or different landscapes, rather than what Doctor Who did best, which was just to have either races of aliens in rubber suits chasing screaming females. And it perhaps needs to go back to basics. And if it did that, I think we'd all appreciate it.
And also, if we're just following TV canon, why are they not addressing the end of the time and the Rani and how she got out of that situation?
yeah.
Or Dimensions of Time, which was not seen in Queen Vic with Angie Watts.
Well, that's that's where she got the idea from to read.
I think the Rani reaps the whirlwind that John mentioned. I think that does address it actually when she was imprisoned by the I forget the name of them. The planet that she sort of there's another planet I think that she was sort of she'd made her own, as it were, her own plaything. And I think I'm sure how she escaped from that might have been addressed in that Rani Reaps the Whirlwind. I seem to remember. I think was that a BBV one? It was a
But
BBV
It wasn't Big Finish. I don't do Big Finish. But this
I would say that they would still need to put that in though.
Yeah, I agree.
To
For what it's
address
worth.
that.
Certainly.
Yeah.
I just wonder, well, where's the Rani been hiding? Are we going to get that? Because apparently the Doctor was the last of the Time Lords. Then it was the Doctor and the Master, because he was hidden with the Fog Watch. I wonder, are we going to get a backstory? I presume we will, as to where Mrs. Flood came from. And why all these people, including Mrs. Flood, are nodding and winking to the camera.
Well, I'd like to know why there's no trigger warning for this very hateful 2025 episode of Doctor Who, because RTD has suddenly turned into a horrible dinosaur writer who suddenly said, Time Lord, you're the last Time Lord, and I'm the last Time Lady. Oh my God.
Person.
Yes, yeah. Are we allowed to talk in such old-fashioned language, RTD? I was shocked. In fact, I was very angry. I was nauseous. I thought, oh my God, this is vile.
Maybe Omega will be the time person.
Oh God. Maybe time's up for him, I tell you. Last orders at the Queen Vic. Now, let's have a look. Before I get the scores, we've got sympathy going for my husband. I think this is really very unnecessary.
Yeah! Woohoo!
Yeah, well, I mean, what's all this about? Eye of Horus. Thank you very much. This £5 is for Jamie. He's not seeing it. No one should be shuffling around on his knees. Hello.
Aye.
All right, yeah. How do you know he's not there now? We're doing Police Academy remake. So no one should be shuffling around on his knees under his husband's desk live on TV. It might give RTD a plot.
Oh,
yeah.
It's like the first
matron.
time it's happened on camera.
Jamie's happy. But anyway, yes, very true. Thank you, Eye of Horus. I mean, yeah, let's give
enjoy
Jamie
that fiver.
Yeah, let's give Jamie a moment. Yeah, that's it. So, what did we score on the doors for this one? Are you ready with your Gaviscon? Oh, here we go. Here are the scores. Right, there we go. Paul 1, John 7, Michelle 6, Rachel 4, myself 5. Bit of
The 4 is for Archie and for Anita.
There you go. Well, good. Yeah, I agree on that one. So here we go. So the total is 16 out of 50. I mean, this is. Sorry, that might be the wrong. It's
Michelle.
not 16. Forget it.
I love it.
It's still low.
No, this one's a different figure, but anyway, I'll get back to it. So, that's not the figure. Let me get it here. The second mistake of the night. It's allowed, isn't it? So, John 7, Rachel 4, that's 11, Michelle 6, that's 17, 18, 23. It should be 23. I don't know what's happened there, but my God, 3 shows in a day is like, so I'll remember that. We've got to add 7 on. There we go. So the last one is the one that I think is going to kill this, really, because we were engaged or not, and did it resolve? Now, we can't really say it resolved because this is it's a 2-parter. But right. may I say again, no, because it's all about therefore story writing. My issue here is, it'll come back to me in a minute. On
Is he back under the table? Are you distracted?
Yes, Jamie. Well, I'll give you £5 in a minute. So, I'll remember. So anyway, John, over to you on engagement then. While I'm thinking what I was going to say.
At the risk of repeating myself, and I don't want to do that. I think it's fairly evident where I'm going with this. I fell off a cliff with Doctor Who a few episodes back. I was walking along a precipice, and I think this program has fallen off as far as I'm concerned. The reason why I gave the mark I did last time, because I don't agree with Paul. I want to commend people in the industry who try their best to polish that turd. They can't do it, but they are trying their hardest. And whether it's actors, set designers, whatever, I wanted to commend them in my score. This time round, it's all to do with how this program is produced, written, and put forward towards us, and it's just not happening. I'm fed up with being seduced, or apparently seduced, by this production team, by this producer, by Russell Davies, who thinks that whatever bit of tedious crap he's feeding up towards us, that if he throws in a few flashbacks of previous Doctors, gives us an old enemy with Rani, puts a flash of Susan in, and thereby sort of disrespects the character, and the various other things that he tries along the way, Omega, Sutek last season, whatever, that in some way he's going to keep us on side because his fans were fickle. He thought it worked for JNT back in the 1980s. It didn't, and it doesn't, because effectively the reason why we all came to Doctor Who was because stories had a beginning, a middle, and an end. They scared us, they put us behind the sofa, they made us want to come back next week because there was something, there was a well-constructed story. I watched the documentary that Frank Skinner did about Terrance Dicks on the season 10 box set, I think it was, recently. And it's a wonderful documentary about a wonderful writer and a man who wasn't a fan of Doctor Who, but made Doctor Who into the creature it is today. I would suggest that Russell Davies, instead of binging on whatever he thinks he's binging on these days, goes back and looks at that documentary and discovers how a man can love a program without being a fan of it, and just produce it in such a way that's going to make it user friendly, not just for fans, but for everybody, and make it an appetizing and particularly exciting piece of television. And that's what Doctor Who's lost just now. It is not an exciting piece of television. I don't know what it's trying to be. It's still a delivery service for the message. He's got an act in there who he thinks is wonderful and nobody else does. So he's hitting all sorts of buttons for himself and others. But what he's not doing is delivering that core thing, an entertaining and exciting adventure in space and time. And until he does that, I'm done.
Well, I remembered, and I'll say it now before I forget, on audience engagement for me, RTD made a big play when he brought New Who into being, and he said we can't do serialized Doctor Who because you can't have somebody missing part 1 and part 2 and then they'll not watch part 3 if they've missed the earlier stuff. Okay, right, there's your logic. Now obviously serializations are back, but the other thing is you now have episode 7 where you mentioned the Rani, Omega, By Generation. I could go on. A casual viewer would go, have I missed something? That flashbacks, callbacks, the whole lot. I'm sorry, folks, but if I'm judging this on audience engagement, the British public watching this, if there weren't Doctor Who geeks, would go, what the hell is this? It's not engaging me. It's talking at me. It keeps throwing clips. It keeps showing blather. Therefore, I'm out. And so I've rated it accordingly, which is there's no way this was trying to reach out as a, RTD used to say, this is he actually said last year that season 1 was a launch pad for joining Doctor Who. There's no way in hell episode 7 was anywhere accessible to the normal viewing public. It was pants.
Yeah, and I dare say next episode is going to be even worse for that in terms of the prior knowledge you'll have to have. I mean, even the mere mention of Omega, it was lost. So he failed on both counts there because on the one hand, you've got casual viewers wondering who the hell Omega is. And then even for the fan service that he's trying to create, Omega's mentioned in a sort of casual passing way. And his name has to be written on the screen in case we missed it. And then we move on to a particularly non-exciting cliffhanger. You're quite right. I just said the same thing myself. For Doctor Who to work, it has to be for everybody. Andrew Cartwell said that when he's in his interview for a script editor of Doctor Who, the last script editor of Doctor Who in the 80s. Who's Doctor Who for? And he said Doctor Who is for everybody. And he was absolutely spot on. I don't know who this is for, but this version of Doctor Who is for nobody.
Michelle, my launch pad to Doctor Who was the Sea Devils, and I understood it because I didn't need loads of exposition. These scaly monsters came out the sea and scared the EBGBs out of me, and I got it. There you go. Oh, exposition
Women
over.
episodes.
You give me a thrill. So there you go. So my point there, if you were a little kid joining last night, phew. Anyway, Michelle,
Oh, yeah.
your thought on an-
And my jumping off point was deep breath. And so again, yes, there was a callback to an old monster in that episode, but I still got that there was something creepy really about these skin suit guys going in, and it was creepy and scary and intriguing. There's nothing in here for the casual viewer, and I don't think there is a casual viewer anymore. Look at the figures.
yeah.
I think the only people who are watching this are the diehard Doctor Who fans. And we're rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, singing "Near to God" as we're watching it go down.
And I'm convinced that there'll be another drop off. I don't mean between these two episodes. I mean, a lot of people left after season one. They saw it through.
Yeah.
As you kind of do, don't you? And I've heard so many people saying, I'm watching now, but when this is over, that's it. And I have to say, I never thought.
Yeah.
I'm about to say that, I think. And I can't believe that. I'm about to probably go into, and I know you're going, well, how are you going to do this stream? I don't care. I'm not forcing myself to watch something that is no longer what I really liked. So I'm finding this interesting. This is really going to tear me apart. Rachel?
Can I ask you a question before Michelle gets on with the audience engagement or whatever? Would you, if he does regenerate, we obviously don't know it's going to happen yet, but if he does regenerate at the end of the next story and there is going to be a change of showrunner and they do a brief pause and then they come back with an overhaul and a new actor, would you consider watching it then?
Well, it's like somebody asked me last night if the BBC said, look, we've made a mistake. Yeah, I'll be back. You know, because you want to.
I would too. Of course, would.
Yeah.
I think that's a Doctor I didn't like as well, but it reinvented itself.
So I would, you know, I mean, it's like as a football fan, you know, we get a new manager, we get a new player, you know, you with it, you give it another go. I can be disgruntled and all the rest of it, but if they changed, you know, we've all got favourite doctors and least favourite doctors, and you hunt around most of the time. It's just at the moment I don't feel as though I'm getting Doctor Who, so I would be full of hope that the new Doctor, I mean, full of stupid hope, because if it's still RTD, then pointless. But I'd be hoping that we're going to get a doctorish type Doctor. Michelle, had you finished your engagement? I can't remember now.
Yes, and also, what does this bode for battle between land and sea, or whatever we're supposed to be watching with the sea couples? I think that is we're going to see the range tank even that one especially if that doesn't have a doctor in it. So, which very likely will happen if there is a regeneration. You know, I think that could be like the final nail in the coffin of Doctor Who is this spin-off series that no one really asked for.
What happens if the spin-off flukily does a lot better than the Doctor Who program? That means
no reason to carry on.
I mean, there is a chance that we may actually have a Doctor-like series that might actually be decent. I'm not holding my breath on that one, but there is always a possibility.
Okay,
the overall situation would still be untenable, though, wouldn't it? The overall sort of product would then be diminished still and rebuked by the thing which is meant to be tangential and less. So that would still be a bad situation. It will be interesting, though. I'm not expecting much from the spin-off, but it will be interesting to see how it
one is.
turns out.
I mean, in fact, we haven't even seen like a trailer or anything for it. Like, when is it coming out? You know, is it supposed to be? Is it next year to hold us over to 27 if the show comes back at all?
Quite.
So, Paul, audience engagement.
At the risk of being petulant and repetitive, I wanted the story with the Rani in the forest. That's all I wanted. I knew I wasn't going to get it, which made my disposition even more petulant. So this didn't engage me at all. It didn't. This was nothing. This was a man who was childish in his conception and his impulses, and it showed in everything. It seeped into everything.
Is there anything else people want to say about audience engagement? Because I'm just finding yeah, go on, Rachel. Go on.
I haven't said anything.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Sorry, I thought you hadn't spoken, Rachel. I wasn't quite sure.
No, it's okay. No, you didn't. It's honestly, it really doesn't matter. So was I engaged? Yeah, but this is the second time I've done this series. I kept checking to see how long there was left on this particular story, and even last series I didn't do that. So it's quite a new experience for me to go, oh, how long is left? Now, the resolution, obviously, we don't really have one this side of it because it's two-parter, but the resolution for the next one is going to have to be a massive payoff. Bringing back the Rani and Omega in one go is a huge risk. You're going to have to make it work. And I'm a bit worried that it's not going to happen. And there was just too much fluff going on in the middle. Look at the structure, sort the structure out, move the reveal up to the middle with everything that's going on in the Wishworld. Do it at the same time. Get Omega in and make it bam, 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 rather than natter, 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 natter. We'll stick to that on my channel, thank you, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I did compare it to Stolen Earth and thought Stolen Earth had an emotion in it. Stolen Earth had lots of action beats, and it did seem to head in a direction.
Yeah, and that was peak RTD, though. That is, to date, in my opinion, his best finale, Stolen Earth and Journey's End, in my opinion.
Well, and I definitely agree that it was a brilliant part one. I personally don't think he landed it very well. The fact that Liz Sladen suddenly had this special star in a earring, you know, from Pandora. Wow, blooming hell! I didn't know they sold those. You know, what a load of tripe. You know, again, if I wrote to the BBC saying I've got a script with lots of old villains in, and don't worry, at the end it's all sorted in 2 minutes, but there's a lovely kind of LGBT plot. I mean, come on, let's say bye-bye.
I'm worried that's what's going to happen as well. Okay, I don't think Rani's going to be utilised well enough. I don't think Omega is also going to get enough screen time.
No?
It's an hours long show next week, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's an hours long story. So I reckon there's going
1
to be...
hour and 6 minutes.
1 hour, 6 minutes. Okay, so there's going to be at least 15 minutes dedicated to absolutely nothing like last year, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, last year...
This can't possibly... Sorry.
No, sorry. What I found... Remember, the Empire of Death, there was still about 10 minutes left for him to go to Costa Coffee and to talk to your real mam and all that hocus pocus, and then go in the TARDIS and sit on the floor and have a cry. You know, the story was over and done with very quickly. What you do is death meets death, don't you? And then you bring life. It was as simple as that. Sorry, Paul.
I was just going to say this can't possibly land. There's not enough established solidity in that first episode, in this first episode, which we're discussing. There just isn't. Anything that happens will almost be on a self-contained, contextless basis. And it might be nice to look at, and it might be more impressive in terms of things happening, but it won't be a meaningful follow-on from this part. It'll be a standalone part, which doesn't amount to anything. And in any event, I think it'll be far too busy, and I think it'll defeat itself like that. It's impossible now for this to be a success.
Well,
this last two parts.
Well, obviously my totalizer's bust, but I'll try and recover. Here we go on the totalizer. So here we go on the figures. These are correct, and I'll add them up properly. So it was hard to add things up. So just for those who are listening, Paul 0, John 0, Michelle 3, Rachel 3, Brendan 2. Yes, that's accurate. That means a grand total of 8 out of 50 for the engagement. Now, wow. Now, I'll do an emergency kind of change here on what the total is. I don't know what's going on tonight. That's not what the figure is. The figure is actually 43. Okay, 43. So I'm not quite sure why. There it is. 36 plus the 7 I mucked up, yeah? So it is 43. So the final figure, obviously it's 43, but that would put it level pegging with story in the engine.
Oh, that tells you a lot, because story and engine
That
has
sounds
a
about
lot,
right.
a lot
That sounds
of
about right.
exposition as well.
And
Yeah.
relies on Dr. Flashbacks.
Yeah, that tells you a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So everybody, I've rectified it. I mean, God knows how that happened today, but yeah, the extra 7 is there. It is there from the production bit. So 43, neck and neck. This season is just not landing, is it, at all? And if you do remember the finale last year, The Legend of Ruby Sunday, the part 1 there got our highest figure. And here, it's got our joint lowest figure. I mean, it's not going to work, is it?
I will say Wishworld is better than Interstellar Song Contest.
Yeah.
Just
I won't say that. I won't
It's
ever say that.
just
I won't ever say that.
better. But that's only because of
No.
the actors.
Well, the
Now-
reviews for this season have been awful. At least in the one before the season finale, Elise had a feeling of gripness when she was doing the Harbinger, and it comes out in the Sutek. I mean, at least you felt some sort of jeopardy in that reveal. This has
Now-
nothing.
Now, concise, so we round off here. I asked you for your ratings predictions, but I'm going to be a right blooming swine. And I'll have to think on my feet. John, be ready for this. I'm going to ask you first. I want you to concisely tell us what is the resolution to next week. In the end, you know, some people say it's going to be Captain Poppy's going to be like the Recorder and the Three Doctors, blah, 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 blah. Or there's a bi-generation and the Doctor and David Tennant. People are talking about everything. The Daleks come and kidnap the Doctor. People are talking about loads of stuff. Anyway, where do you think it's going to land?
Probably Omega, played by Peter Davison, will arrive at the front of the TARDIS in a 4-wheeled kitchen sink, hit the Doctor over the head with it, and he'll regenerate into RuPaul.
All right, I'm actually typing. I'm typing this down, you swine. Michelle, what do you actually truly think is going to land this, or attempt to?
There'll be another dramatic reveal, another dramatic flashback. They'll be crying. 15 extra minutes left to spare, and the Doctor either fades off into the sunset or ends up with Rogue, and that's the end of it.
Right, fades into sunset. What was the first bit you said? Just so I've got it down for posterity.
There'll be a lot of montages, crying.
Okay, right. Rachel, your thoughts on the solution?
Well, I know what I would like to see, but I don't think we're going to get it because he's changed the character of the Rani. So I don't think we're going to get an explanation that she is behind the bi-generation nonsense that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going to get that. I reckon what's going to happen is going to be lots of tears, and Omega will be defeated in about 25 minutes or so. He won't get the decent amount of screen time that he so justly deserves. Rani will be the Archie Punjabi Rani will be betrayed by the Anita Dobson Rani, and I think that Rani will be thwarted, and her plans of resurrecting Gallifrey will not come into fruition, and that Gallifrey will just remain to be a destroyed planet, and then the Doctor regenerates.
Gosh, anyway, it went a bit faint there, but yes, okay, so there's an awful lot there. So that's basically a whole
Break it
episode.
down, basically.
Yeah. Paul.
Our show will be subjected to further and terminal revisionism. There'll be a cultural mushroom cloud hanging over it, which will prohibit its return for over a generation, possibly more.
And I will say, I think, last year we were tricked by all that Sutek nonsense. That in the end, what defeated Sutek really was that mother that intrigued him about humanity, all that gobbledygook. I think that scene when Mrs. Flood hugged Conrad is going to be the key, because Conrad is holding this world together with his wish as a conspiracy theorist that there could be a better way of doing it, and he's got no doubt at all. I think if he now gets the love of a mother figure like Mrs. Flood, and he gets that love, I think that, yeah, Mrs. Flood is going to betray Rani, and I think Conrad also is a conduit there, because she hugged him. What a scene. So special, because his mum slapped him last week. You know, so there you go. RTD, I'm on to you. So there you go, folks. That's our predictions. So, folks, thank you for joining us. I'll edit this later. Rachel, I can edit, can't I? I edit that bit out of the power cut.
Yeah. I was a glitch in the Matrix. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Amazing. Things happen. Thanks for your time, everybody. And I dare say we'll do. Oh God, I wonder what we'll say next week. Anyway, good night, everybody. And Rachel, sorry, shout out your channel. I apologize.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Chat about it, don't chat about it. That one, you know, where we discuss woke news. We've got hopefully some good stuff coming out this week. But I didn't do a review this weekend because I unfortunately annihilated myself last week and wasn't very well. So I gave myself a rest. So I put my ratings video up at 4:00. So that's already out. So if you feel free to watch it, if you would like to.
There you go. Thank you very much. Garbage. We will see a Rani TARDIS. Nope, there's no budget out of it. I know. Oh, I wonder.
It's still taken over by the Texans.
So, good night, everyone.
Not the Texans, the Tech Trucks. Good night. Bye.